But see, I don't have my image.
That's fine. We don't need to see faces if you prefer not to turn your video on, but we would ask everybody to please mute, and then we'll call on folks as we proceed. Thanks. Hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm LEILA Gordon. I'm the chair of the Fairfax County Arts Committee. And we'll get started in just a few minutes here, give everybody a chance to get on the call who's registered to receive the Zoom link. I just want to remind everybody to please, if you're here as an artist or a member of the media, to please identify yourself with your full name and or your studio name. If you're an artist, if you're a media representative, we ask that you please give us your name and the outlet you represent. Also, please ask everybody to keep themselves on mute until I'm able to recognize you. And we're going to try to monitor that by using the raised hand function in Zoom, and or paying attention to the chat, the meeting chat, if you want to put a question or a comment there. I'll give this till about 5 minutes after 3, and then we'll get started. While we're waiting, I would just call your attention to the meeting chat where I've put the slightly modified location and scope language. It's also in the Arts Fairfax call for artists information about this COVID-19 memorial project. It's not modified very extensively. It just emphasizes that the stormwater management element of the site is an important feature of the site. So again, please just rename yourself with your full name, identify your studio if you're with a studio, identify a media outlet if you're here from the media, and please put yourself on mute and we'll get started at about 3:05. Hi, Duffy and Maureen and James and Steve, if you would please rename yourselves with your full name or studio or media outlet you represent. We appreciate it. Thank you. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Again, welcome everybody. My name is LEILA Gordon. I'm the chair of the Fairfax County Art Committee, and welcome to this information session regarding Fairfax County's call for artists for a COVID-19 memorial project. Again, just a couple of ground rules before we start. We appreciate it if you would please identify yourself by your full name and studio if you're affiliated with a studio. If you are here representing a media outlet, we appreciate your providing your name and the media outlet. This session is being recorded, and once the recording has been uploaded to the cloud, the link to that will be shared with Arts Fairfax, and it will become part of the material on the Arts Fairfax website regarding this call. We did modify the language in the call slightly to emphasize the stormwater management aspect of the site. And that information is contained on the Arts Fairfax website in the call document. I am going to try to keep track of questions in the chat. And I also would ask that if you have a question that you please raise your hand or put it in the chat. If people have questions that are very technical with respect to the site, I will defer to our colleagues from Fairfax County who are on this call with me. Fred from the Stormwater Management, Arash from FMD, and we also have a representative from the Park Authority, Adam. So depending on the nature of your question, I may defer to one of my colleagues to respond to it. And when we go through whatever questions we have regarding the call and the county's goals and objectives, then we will respond to questions about the submittable platform itself, if you have those. And our colleague from Arts Fairfax, Lisa Merriam, will walk us through that if you have concerns or questions about submittable. So without further ado, I will reiterate that Fairfax County is seeking to memorialize the victims of COVID-19 in Fairfax County, as well as the county's efforts to mitigate loss related to the COVID-19 pandemic. On the call for artists, there are images and drawings related to the site. This site already serves largely a dual purpose for memorializing county employees, as well as to mitigate stormwater runoff by the use of the pavers at the site and the underneath plumbing arrangements that capture runoff and then recycle it through the fountain feature. It isn't required that the fountain feature or the rock within which it's housed presently be retained, but it is encouraged. And we are sensitive to the need to restore the stormwater mitigation features of the site as a function of the completion of the project. So I think that gives general perspective on what we're about, and I'm happy to take questions from the artists or other individuals who are on the call. If you would just raise your hand or submit them in the chat, and we will proceed. Okay, wonderful. Well, thank you all for attending. And I'm glad that the materials are so extensive as to be self-explanatory. One thing I will mention, folks may be wondering about what kind of calendar or timeline we have for this project. And aside from the submission date for your vision, ideas, and your qualifications, follow-on dates will be determined by the nature of what we receive. And then following the solicitation of additional information from a smaller group, there will probably be a process by which the final selection is made. And then how long it takes to execute the project is open-ended. We do not have a predetermined time frame for completion of the project. So here's a question from Carol Sakai. What kind of conceptualized design are you looking for in a submission, drawings, renderings? And I would say that's entirely up to each of you to submit within the parameters of the submittable platform. There are some word limits to the responses to the questions in that platform. And then there are some guidelines in the platform about how to attach images, either of your existing work or past work, as well as any other images that you might want to upload. So really at this point, we are interested in understanding how you might respond to the objective the county has to memorialize victims of COVID-19 and the efforts the county made to assist the people here in navigating COVID-19. Any details regarding that you want to share, we would welcome. I hope that answers your question. I know it's not definitive, but it's as close as I could get. This question from William Dodge, a gang of 3 artists, as he explains. Can you explain the work sample submittal requirements? Are you looking for 5 projects, 5 images? A number of our projects need several images to explain due to their scale. Can we submit multiple images for each project example? And I'm going to defer answering that question to Lisa because she's more familiar with the parameters of the submittable platform.
Thank you, LEILA. Yes, so for your 5 work samples, you can submit either JPEG or PDF. So you have the option with that PDF to combine multiple images into the one upload for a single project. So if you wanted to show the project from various views, but I would suggest that you take the opportunity to submit 5 distinct artworks that you have completed recently.
Thank you, Lisa. Question from Jerome: is the memorial representing a defined number of COVID-19 individuals? If so, how many? No is the answer to that question. More than 1,000 people in Fairfax County passed away from COVID-19. But of course, that's not really a precise measure of the impact of the virus. That's the extent to which the health department and the Commonwealth were able to capture that kind of statistic based on death certificate information. So really and truly, the magnitude of suffering and the magnitude of effort that it took to address this crisis are the contextual environment for the memorial. Deb Bisson has a question here. I guess this is a broader question. I was reading last night that 500 people a day are still dying in the US from COVID-19. So I guess I'm wondering if this is a bit early to memorialize something that's still ongoing. Well, as I say, there's not a fixed timeline. So it's, I think, not too late to start this effort. And certainly to the extent that any individual artist believes that COVID-19 is an ongoing crisis and wants to create in the context of it being an ongoing crisis, you're welcome to do so. None of us believes that COVID-19's impact is over. Our county executive is fond of adding up the numbers of the years, 19, 20, 21, 22, and we're going now into 23. And you're exactly right, it is still causing death and suffering. So absolutely, that's a valid point, and we encourage you to incorporate that in your thinking. William Dodge again, we are partnered with a Richmond artist. Should they be the main lead artist submitting, or is it still okay for us to submit as a team? We have more relevant work, but our collaborator is in the geographic boundaries required by the call. We are in North Carolina and Pennsylvania. I would like to clarify that we are giving some weight to the geography of our region, but it is not exclusive. So you are welcome to apply in whatever format or configuration you think will give you the best light for us to consider your work.
That's not fair. Not fair.
I think Jerome Parmet, you are not muted, but did you have a question or a concern?
No, I've stated my question in the chat. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. Brian Davis asks, what kind of foot traffic other events happen in the area for the memorial? Well, I can say that this area is sited in front of 3 very significant Fairfax County buildings, the public safety headquarters, the Harity Building, which houses our land use activities, the Fairfax County Park Authority, and other agencies. And it is a short walk from the Panino Building, which houses our human services functions. So, and it is within walking distance as well of the main government center for Fairfax County. So while it is not a location that supports all Fairfax County employees and all Fairfax County constituents who might have business or need to visit those offices, it does represent a location where the largest number of those folks are convened on a regular basis. So as you can imagine, people eat lunch out there. There are benches, as you can see on the site image. There are people memorialized, and there are, there are a variety of reasons why people would come through the site and or stop at the site. And our hope is that the artwork would be so compelling that it would draw people who have no other reason but to stop and consider the impact of COVID-19 for them personally, to reflect and to have a moment at this site that is healing or that helps them absorb what their experience was. Let's see. You may want to clarify that the call is open to DMV artists and teams, so I would advise the Richmond-based artist to be the lead applicant. Thank you, Lisa. It's a good idea. It is a weight that we will give, but again, we aren't being exclusive about that. It is an important consideration. Sarah says the diameter of 16 feet is given. Are there limitations to height and weight of the installation? Is lighting of the work included in the site preparation? The site diameter is given as a feature of the site. The height and weight are to be determined by the artist working with the county. Lighting of the work could be included in site preparation, but without knowing what that lighting would be or the specifics of it, I wouldn't say that definitively. So I know that's not a detailed, helpful response, but that is certainly something to consider in looking at the site image and the site plan. There is water available at the site. Brian has a question. Is there power or water available at the site? There is a water feature as mentioned at the site. And for the question regarding power, Adam from the county, do you know if there is a power source to the site on site?
I believe I'd have to look at the specific drawings, but I believe there's power at least going to the fountain unit. So my assumption is that there's the ability to connect electric, but would require design to do so.
Right. Thank you. Arash, do you have any information to add to that?
What Adam touched on is exactly the same thing, right?
Okay, great. In terms of storm management, are you asking the artist to include design a plumbing system to recycle? No, we're just pointing out to artists that stormwater mitigation is important to the county. There's a significant investment to the stormwater mitigation features, the pavers and the water recycling system that's there. And so it will be a significant consideration for the county in working with the selected artists to realize their concept. Did anybody have any questions that they wanted to direct to Lisa with Arts Fairfax about the submittable platform? Here's a question from Tim Tate. Is there a preference to the sculpture being lit? And I would say no. At this point in our process, we have no preferences at all. We are eager to see what artists bring to this goal and to the project, and we will let our preferences be guided by what is submitted. So we have no preference one way or the other. I will say that there is no adjacent residential activity at this site at present, but farther down the road in the coming decade, residential activity is planned to occur across the street in the massive, vast parking lot areas in front of the Fairfax County Government Center. So while there is no residential intensity at present there, there may be within the next decade residents in proximity to this site by walking distance. Lisa notes that about 12,000 employees work at the Fairfax County Government Center. It was a vaccination center. It's a polling place, and there's a farmer's market there. There's a concert series in the rear of the government center in the summer. And as I say, the traffic that goes to and from both the Harity and the Panino buildings is significant in terms of residents of Fairfax County and businesses who do business with the county. So there is a tremendous amount of visibility to this particular site and the location. Sarah comments, lighting is good for visibility from a safety standpoint. Is the site well lit at night? Well, yes, there is sufficient public safety lighting, as you can imagine, with the public safety headquarters nearby to that site. There is quite a bit of lighting for nighttime hours. Carol Sakai says, in terms of submissions, is this a preliminary submission with culling of the various ideas and honing it down to only one? That's a great question. This is a preliminary layer of the process that's open to the April deadline. Following the deadline, the closing on, I'm pretty sure it's April 12th at 5 o'clock, which is a Wednesday. The panel that will be working on selecting a group of finalists to explore their concepts and vision further will undertake that work. Those artists or artist teams will be identified. There will be consideration for bringing those artists to the county to make a presentation to the selection panel. And from that process, it is hoped that we will then be able to narrow down the selection to a single artist or artist team. Brian Davis asks, are multiple submissions allowed? We're not excluding anything at this point. So if you have multiple ideas and want to make multiple submissions, feel free. Carol says, how many finalists are you envisioning at this time? We don't have a fixed number for that. It's been some of our experience in the past that you don't want to bring more than between 4 and 6 artists to that level of the process, because it then becomes even more challenging. But we really will be guided by the submissions and by the qualifications and ideas that are presented at this point in the process. I am not seeing any other questions. But I'll I'll give this a couple minutes for people to ruminate. Fred Wilkins from the Department of Public Works is clarifying for us that the cistern only receives water from rain events, and water pumped through the rock can go extended periods of time without water if there are dry spells or droughts where there's no incoming rain. So there's not a water source other than rain for the water recycling feature of the site. Thank you, Fred. William asks, how much do you expect public engagement to factor into the design? That again is something that will be determined in concert with the finalists or the selected artist. It's a very important aspect of this project to be inclusive of our community and to look for ways that the community can be engaged with the artist or artist team that might be selected. And as all of you who work in the public art field know, that engagement can take on many different varieties and forms. It can be workshops, it could be lecture demonstrations, it could be information sessions, it could be hands-on opportunities, gathering input and submissions from members of the community that would augment the ideas or be thematically linked to the idea of the lead artist or artist team. But it is very important to the county's idea about the role of art in community, that the community be involved and included in this process as much as we can accomplish that. Tim Tate, thank you very much for indicating your love and appreciation for public engagement. We feel the same way about that. Yes, Carol Sakai Fred is making that clear that water is available for the fountain only after rain. If there is a fountain or assisted fountain kind of feature that you'd like to be incorporated, you should include that comment, and certainly that would be a factor for the county to consider if the vision for the project is selected with that as an aspect of it. Here's a question again about, is there a height limit? No, but there are practical considerations to height. The taller or the heavier or the more massive or ambitious the structure is, the more involved the footing and structural engineering considerations become. So we ask those of you with your aesthetic and practical expertise to combine those realities and consider them as you describe your vision for the memorial. Lisa's asking me if I saw Mike's question. Mike Pacheco, I see here, for creating the art, I'm understanding that the artist will work with a contractor or water specialist. So will this be design sculpted only, or will the artist be responsible for making the fountain functional? Well, that's a very specific question, and I wish I could give you a specific answer. But what our hope is that the artist's concept that's selected will also be coming from an artist who has experience with fabrication. Fabrication is the devil in the details for public art, and it's going to be important that you document that level of your experience and expertise, because it is a consideration. The county does not have unlimited resources, so while you may have a very grand and beautiful and appropriate vision. If it can't actually be fabricated and executed within rational parameters of cost for that aspect of the realization of the vision, we would probably not pursue it. So I know that's not a very specific response, but we're counting on the expertise of artists as well as the expertise of county staff to mutually support each other and make the concept work. You're welcome, Mike. I will point out that the budget does include the fabrication costs. So please keep that in mind as you think about this, and know that the county will be a partner on this project in terms of site preparation and support, but fabrication of your concept is included in that project budget of $200,000. These are great questions. William asks, will the county cover installation or just site prep? Well, there's a lot of space between site prep and installation, and they're mutually involved. So what's critical to remember about installation and site prep is that those pavers perform a very specific function. And so they will have to be considered in terms of the final outcome of the project. There, as I mentioned earlier, to the extent that the successful concept involves structural issues that require footing, anchoring, specialized permitting or design elements or fabrication concerns, the county will certainly work with the artist and fabricator, if the fabricator is a subcontractor to the artist, to make sure that all of the county's requirements are met and that the concept is as fully realized as possible. But as I mentioned, the county does not have unlimited resources for this, so we hope to have a rational balance between the costs involved that will be covered by the budget for the artwork and the costs that would be covered by county experts in the site and landscaping and plumbing and all the related aspects of this particular location. I think I mentioned to somebody the other day that wouldn't it just be perfect if it was a hologram, but that was a joke. Okay, well, we're coming up on 3:35. I'll certainly keep this conversation open for another 5 minutes or so. Well, thank you, Sarah Berry notes, holograms would let us rotate artists. Well, I don't want to exclude holograms, but there are technical considerations with holograms as well that represent some challenges that I don't know have been surmounted, like daylight for the time being. So, really at this point, we are not limiting conceptually what we hope to see presented from your great creative minds and spirits. So there are practical dimensions, like with all public art projects, that we'll certainly discover as we proceed. But at this moment in time, it's the opportunity for imagination to take the stage, and we look forward to seeing what each of you arrives at in terms of your vision and ideas. So I'll ask my county colleagues, Arash and Fred, particularly, and Adam, if I've left anything out or if you want to add anything at this point with respect to site features or anything related to that.
Can't think of anything, LEILA. Personally, you've done such a wonderful job of giving just all of the details. I can't think of anything to fill in on.
Great, thanks, Adam. Fred, have we missed anything with respect to the stormwater we should be sensitive to?
The only thing that I would add, aside from the fact that there's really only running water after rainstorms, so thank you for passing that on, is that kind of from where the center rock is, there's some under drains right beneath the pavers that would collect the water that comes out. So I just want to throw it out there that is there.
Terrific, thank you. Arash, anything?
No, I think Fred and Adam touched on most of the key elements for the site, so it's pretty good. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so I'll throw this open for one last round of questions from artists. Steve, I don't know your last name yet or your artist studio, so if you could share that with us, that would be great. Tim, yes, you had a question.
So I just want to make sure I have this right. So it's going to be, we're going to be designing a fountain or rehabbing the one that's there, but it will only work after it rains. The rest of the time, it won't be a fountain. Is that correct?
I wouldn't say that's strictly speaking correct. If you wanted a fountain feature that worked nonstop, I think you should stipulate that. And then it would be a function of you and your fabricator and the county staff to work collaboratively to see if that's feasible and can be executed. I think the county's concern is that as long as the stormwater management continues as successfully as it works now, whatever else happens in terms of the memorial it's open to conceptualization. Here's a question from Corey Burnett that I'm going to toss to Fred. Would you describe the space under the pavers as hollow?
All right, so kind of right under the pavers, you're going to have basically and sorry if I get super technical here, 4 inches of number 8 stone, followed by a layer of crushed glass. And that's when you'll encounter like the under drain. So it's not hollow, but there is sand under that supports the weight of the pavers and whatever's going to go in place of the rock.
Right, so that was a great question and very important, because if the vision is for something requiring massive concrete footers, that would be a very impractical approach to the memorial at this particular site, given what those that stormwater management process involves in terms of substructure. Okay, well, certainly I wish all of the artists on this call and artists who aren't on this call the very best of luck in coming up with something that appropriately reflects the county's goals for commemorating the experience Fairfax County had with this pandemic. So there's a whole bunch of questions now. Let's see, can we remove the pavers as long as stormwater is still managed? Some displacement of the pavers might be feasible, but I would not characterize that as significant, and that if it were to require, if the concept were so compelling that a great deal of the paver structure would be removed. We would really need to know that the stormwater mitigation result would not be impeded. So from a practical perspective, I think removal of a significant amount of that paver and infrastructure for stormwater is not anticipated. A concrete base can be set on top of the pavers, correct? Again, that would have to do directly with the actual weight of the base. So the answer is it could be, but probably up to some combination of area and weight that wouldn't, again, impede the existing mitigation impact of the system that's there. Is that a fair response, Fred?
Yes, it is.
Thanks. So again, this recording will be uploaded to, it is quite a challenge. You're correct, Tim. And that's why we've turned to artists and not engineers to memorialize the county's interaction with COVID. We love our engineers, but it takes the combined wisdom of artists and scientists to make something of lasting impact that is both emotionally satisfying and continues to achieve the county's environmental goals. Maureen asks, will there be a future opportunity to ask the questions that will arise as we begin to think about our proposals? I think actually this is the best opportunity for questions and responses. I will put my email address in the chat here. But if we get questions that are truly different from the questions that have been asked and answered on this call today, we will work with Arts Fairfax to also upload to the Memorial Call for Artists site the Q&A that we receive, and that will be accessible there to anybody who's interested in checking back there for added information. Question from Gemma. I hope I say that right. I have one last question. Is this project just how Fairfax residents have been impacted by COVID-19 or everyone? I would say that's up to you. The county is obviously deeply interested in reflecting on what all of us experienced. Certainly Fairfax County did not experience COVID-19 in isolation from any other part of the world. So I don't think it's possible to separate and say this is just about Fairfax County. But certainly we also want to find an outcome that reflects as well that there was not just suffering, but sacrifice and community effort to ease suffering involved in the experience of the pandemic. So those are the key elements of the county's objectives with the memorial project. And those are not unique to Fairfax County by any means. Okay, well, I thank all of you again for participating very much. And please, if something occurs to you over the course of the coming days and weeks that we haven't addressed, first, I ask you please to consult this recording, make sure we didn't actually answer the question, and then please do direct your inquiry to me Please, when you do that, make sure you put in the subject line Fairfax County COVID-19 Memorial so that I'm alert to what the concern is and can be prompt in responding to your inquiry. Thank you to my county colleagues and to our great partners at Arts Fairfax. I want to acknowledge Linda Sullivan, the president and CEO of Arts Fairfax, Lisa Merriam, the director of programs for Arts Fairfax, and the county staff who will help us realize this project and make the most of the vision that is selected. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon, evening, and we look forward to hearing from you.